Welcome everyone to Vedius VOD review of G2 vs Fnatic from week 7 of the LEC. Today we're going to be looking at, well, the game between Fnatic and G2. We're going to be figuring out what went wrong, what went right, some of the do's and don'ts, some of the cool stuff that happened, and some of the shenanigans. I will be intermittently reading Twitch chat, and I will read out what the questions are so that I can convey to YouTube, because this was something that people asked for last time. In any case, let's start with the draft. So, Fnatic got side selection this time around, so they chose blue. This means that they obviously have first pick and first ban. They get a little bit more freedom with their bans because they are on blue side. So they're not forced to ban things like the Yuumi, which you can see comes out from the side of G2. Pardon me. So, they choose to ban Qiyana, they choose to ban Yasuo. The Qiyana ban, I think that... I don't know if anyone on their team actually plays it. We haven't had any evidence of them playing it yet, and we're pretty confident that G2 plays it jungle, mid, top, and probably bot, knowing perks. But we can be really confident that G2 plays it in 3 roles. So that ban makes sense. The Yasuo ban is because it's directed towards perks bot lane, and... I think he's demonstrated enough times that Yasuo is an extremely strong bot laner and you can't afford to give it to him. And then the Lucian ban is because Fnatic want to prioritize the Karma and they don't want to give a kill lane towards G2's duo. I think the Lucian ban is a little bit surprising because it leaves a lot of things open, but we'll get to that in a second. So G2 choose to ban Rakan, Yuumi, and Corki. Now the Corki ban makes sense because... Corki, after talking with pros, they say that Corki is stronger than Azir, just because on package timing, it's easier for Corki to make roam plays, right? Which makes a lot of sense. So it's easier for you to gain priority mid and then threaten sides, which is a really valuable thing for a mid laner to be able to do. And you scale just as well as Azir, and you can poke and trade, and you can do everything that Azir can do, blah, 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 wonderful. So G2 take that off the board because they don't want to give it over, and they don't want to have to play necessarily Azir into Corki. They're fine leaving everything else up. They feel like that they have an answer to the Aatrox, which again we'll get to in a bit. So Fnatic very predictably first pick the Karma. We were talking about this on the cast. Fnatic have been doing it for weeks. Like, it's their most played. I mean, we can even just very quickly. Teams, EU, Fnatic. If we very quickly go, like, look at this. Look at this! It's the most predictable pick ever. We know it. G2 knows it. Everyone knows that they're going to first pick Karma. So G2's like, fine. We know what you're going to put with Karma. You're going to put, like... You can't put Rakan with it. And we're going to take your other carry, which is Pyke. So the thing about the Pyke, which you didn't talk about in cast, was that... It actually pairs up really well with the Karma, and remember the first time that they met, it was a Pyke Karma bot lane from Fnatic that ended up beating G2. So they deny that away, which is extremely valuable, but it also goes into the hands of Mickey, who thinks it's very strong on this patch. You also give over Sejuani. Now this is where I then tie back with the Lucian. The thing about Lucian is Perks has been spamming Lucian a lot in solo queue, and it surprises me that Lucian has suddenly become extremely potent, because we've actually seen it a few times. If we just very quickly have a look at champions, and then we go to bot lane, and then we go to 914, and we have a look, Lucian's presence jumped up to 35% globally, which is pretty crazy, because when we compare that to 913, oh, we still had a 33%. Wait, okay, maybe I'm just trolling then, because in Europe, that definitely wasn't the case. So if we then just look at 913, we look at bots, Lucian, 30% presence. Oh, am I just trolling? Did I just forget the Lucian was a thing? 35%. Okay, then the presence clearly hasn't changed that much. I'm clearly just an idiot. Well, never mind. Lucian clearly hasn't come out of nowhere, has always been a thing, and I'm just an idiot. Regardless, Perks is definitely a good Lucian player. He tweeted a lot about how he's so good at it. But I do think that there are ways in which you can deal with Lucian, you know, like not first picking this, and instead like take things away like the Sejuani, because Sejuani is really strong, and it also and it kind of forces you to prioritize your jungle pick, which they don't, which also surprises me because so if G2 get this draft right, so they've got Pyke Sejuani, which is a really strong duo already. You have so many options, and your comp can now go in so many different directions. Because you could go for a melee mid laner, right? Like, you can't do Yasuo, but you could think about Camille. And think of how strong that is. Camille, Pyke, Sejuani, like, crazy strong, right? Camille also does really well into Aatrox, so you can maybe put the Camille top, so you can flex it. You could also consider doing, what else? Okay, my mind has gone blank. Point is, you have a lot of options with this duo. And you can take your comp in any direction because you've got team fighting, you've got scaling, you've got early game, you've got a lot, right? So then what Fnatic decide to do is go for Aatrox and Twisted Fate. Now, the Aatrox doesn't surprise me because Bwipo was very confident on the pick. He talks a lot about how he's surprised it's ever left open, but I'm not sure why he decided to prioritize it now because he should know that Wonder has a deep enough champion pool that he's going to have an answer to it. If it's not Kled, there's going to be something else, like a Fiora, just as an argument, right? And again, we already talked about how these melees, like you could pick Camille too, also synergize well with Sejuani, right? So I'm surprised that he picked it here. This feels like a bit disrespectful to me. But maybe they have some logic. I don't know what it is. And then the Twisted Fate pick, which again also confuses me because Azir is open. So the reason you can only assume that they picked Twisted Fate is because they want to have roam pressure, right? But they're not going to roam to bot lane because you also know where the Karma's going, right? And so that means that your only options are to go for top, which you can set up for, but then all you have to do as G2 is just be aware of it, play around top, and then as long as you have a stronger bot side of the map, you can constantly trade and get advantages. So, like, I think this first half draft... Oh, let's also not forget that by picking Aatrox and Twisted Fate, you also guarantee that the Karma's going bot, right? So there's... One of the biggest strengths of Karma is her ability to be flexed between 3 different roles. 4, support, AD carry, mid, and top. And they locked in their top laner and mid laner. So they didn't guarantee a good jungle matchup. They give the ability for G2 to counterpick both of their solo lanes, and they give G2 the option to guarantee a winning AD carry. Like, I just don't get it. Are their champions pools so small that you need to prioritize these picks so early? Or are they just that confident on the picks that, like, they think that they can just blind pick them? Because, like, again, you don't have to be an analyst to see this as, like, this is the most Fnatic comp you've ever seen. This is like, let's just wait. Pick some bans. All right. Look at this. So we go to week 7. Let's just look at the day before. So Fnatic versus Schalke. What's this? Karma, Aatrox, Corki. Let's just go to week 6 for a real quick second. What have we got here? Oh, Karma, Zyra Khan, Corki, Fnatic. Karma was banned. All right, fair enough. So they prioritize Rakan. What? Twisted Fate? What? Aatrox? What? It's like the most Fnatic draft ever. Like, G2 are going to prepare something. They have to. Why would they not? They know you're going to pick these things, so why would you blind pick them? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. I'm not bought in. I think they could have just saved these picks for later. You can pick a better support matchup into Pyke, right? You could also, because you know that you can assure that the Pyke is going to go bot lane, right? You can either pivot and put the Karma as support and then go for an AD carry or something. One that gives you, like, pressure. So just as an example, right? I'm not saying this is good, but, like, Caitlyn Karma, if you pick that bot lane, this Pyke doesn't get to roam anymore. The all-in still exists, but the amount of early pressure that you have is insane. And the amount of freedom and roaming power that Pyke gets heavily gets diminished, right? So that's one potential pivot. You could also guarantee, like, a strong jungle matchup, like, I don't know, Olaf, or if you wanted to go an AD mid laning, you could also early prioritize the Elise, and you could guarantee stronger early matchups. But instead, they picked their 2 solo laners. So now you're like, all right, Karma's bot lane, which you already knew anyway. Aatrox is top, and Twisted Fate is mid. So then their jungle pool gets banned out. Oh yeah, and then, like, so G2 then get the counter pick top, right? Now, we did see in the lane, and we'll talk a little bit about it once we get into the game, that, like, even though this is a counter pick, Aatrox gets early prio, right? So, clearly, even with this counter pick, he was happy to play around this into this matchup. But even then, I still think that, like, giving G2 this option, I don't really agree with. So their jungle pool gets banned out, and then Fnatic choose to ban away their solo laners, right? And so this is one of the advantages that you have, because you know that one of these two things is going to get counterpicked. You have a couple of options here. You can either choose to ban out AD carries, or you can choose to ban out one of these matchups, right? Which is what they do. So they don't want to deal with Irelia or Sylas, who can both be really good into Twisted Fate. So, like, screw that. We don't want to deal with it, right? Understandable why they make these bans. The Akali is still open, but clearly he's saying, like, I'm fine playing TF into Akali, and he even played that matchup last time. Like, that's why they swapped out of it. They put the Akali up top lane. Because I think AD Twisted Fate is actually a lot harder for Akali early on. If it was AP, then it's a little bit different, but yeah. So then G2, knowing what the mid laner is, decides to lock in Azir. I thought that they would go for something a little bit more roam-centric, I thought that they might go for something with a little bit more kill pressure, but they were just like, you know what? Azir's really strong for a reason. He's like first pick, first ban for like every big team everywhere. He gets prio early against Twisted Fate. No, he can't match the roams. But he scales well into the early mid. He offers more teamfight value. And given that they already have a Kled and Sejuani, it synergizes and makes sense with the comp. So the pick itself makes sense. And it also now saves counter pick for last for perks. Which is great, because that's the only matchup that you don't really know yet, because the support hasn't been locked in. So G2 got pretty much everything that they wanted. They got a perfect draft. And then, like, so the reason why they're forced to go Gragas now, and, like, so this is where the Elise ban is really good. And what G2 could have done is they could have been really obnoxious and banned Gragas here as well. And then it would have forced him onto something like Ivern, but even then you wouldn't have had any AP damage. So I wonder what he would have gone for then. But they had double AD. And so while you do have AP from Karma, right, like, Karma's one of those things where it's like, she has damage, but a lot of it is like poke damage. So you throw out your Q, and then you hit them, and usually it hits them for a lot, but that's her only damage skill. That's why it hits you for a lot. So in a team fight, hitting that one Q really isn't going to do a huge amount. So you need like more AP damage to come from elsewhere. So that's why they picked the Gragas. The Gragas makes sense. It also has some early pressure, but I'm pretty sure that like early on, Sejuani can match Gragas. And I'm pretty sure this 2v2 beats this 2v2. I'm pretty confident. Early on, anyway. Maybe that changes a little bit later. But, so then, right, and this is the thing that really confuses me about Fnatic's draft. They lock in Tahm Kench into Pyke. So I don't know if you guys know this, but Pyke is pretty good into Tahm Kench. And some of the reasons include, number one, Pyke's ultimate ignores your shield. So when you're low and you grey health, Pyke's like dead. Which forces you to grey health earlier, right? Number two, if Pyke dives in and you've consumed someone, you still get that stun because it's AoE, right? So you're still going to stun the Tahm Kench, and then the moment he spits the person out because he's stunned, you can then hook him back. So you then have a choice, right? Let's say you just gobble up your AD carry after the Pyke comes in. You can either spit the AD carry out early, in which case he then has time to reposition and potentially avoid the Q, right? But then, of course, he has to dodge it. Or you keep him in your belly, and then you get tossed back with an AD carry inside your belly. So there are a number of reasons as to why Pyke is a good pick into Tahm Kench. And picking it didn't really make sense. It does give you a little more 2v2 lane pack, because like Tahm Kench as a 1v1 unit is still very powerful. And like Karma Tahm Kench as a lane is powerful. It just doesn't make sense to pick it into Pyke. There has to have been better support picks. Like maybe Alistar? Maybe Braum. I mean, like, but then I suppose you make this lane weaker. So maybe, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, like, I can't believe that with Rakan and Yumi banned, this is the only pick that makes Karma AD carry work. I just can't believe that. That can't be a thing. I don't know. So then you pick Xayah. And Xayah's just really strong. Scales well, has more than enough self-peel, can lane 1v2, especially if you're on TP. This gives the freedom for Pyke to roam. It's like G2 smashed Fnatic in draft. Fnatic was so predictable in everything that they did. Oh, I didn't like it at all. I just think that they could have done more. They could have been more flexible in their draft. Like, maybe prioritize getting a winning jungle matchup rather than securing your 2 solo laners, which can then be counterpicked. Maybe be more flexible with the Karma. Put your AD carry back on an AD carry. Give yourself a lane to play around, for example. I don't know. I wasn't a fan. In any case, these are the cards that were dealt. We talked about it in cast about how the thing about this Pyke is it does really well into the Karma Tahm Kench lane because early these two can't really roam a lot. They just kind of sit in lane. Tahm Kench, once he hits 6, can look to roam, but this guy is just so much stronger at like working with his jungler early to force picks and force early skirmishes. So what you do is on an early base, you pick up something like Moby Boots, and then you group up with your jungler and you start roaming around the map, and you leave your Xayah to 1v2, because this duo will not kill Xayah. They don't have kill pressure. Like, you should never die. If you die as Xayah to this, you've done something wrong. But they can't dive you. You might get zoned away from farm, which is fine, but yeah, this won't kill this. So this gives the freedom for this to roam. Early on, this has push. I didn't know that, but we saw it in the matchup. And he's just playing pretty aggressively in lane, but these two are like, in terms of damage, going back and forth. I think on first base, Kled can then come back and actually starts winning this matchup, but I think he needs like more points in his skills before he starts winning. But he definitely gets to a point where this guy smashes Aatrox. Azir will get push early, and Tahm Kench Come will also get push early against a Pyke Xayah. And this is important because so Pyke can't really approach the wave early on, whereas Tahm Kench and Karma can. So they'll just clear minions very, very quickly, and they'll be able to get an early push. But the moment he's got like level 2, level 3, the fact that they push can look to be taken advantage of by this duo. So in terms of what we need to see from the early game from both teams, Fnatic will look to try and take advantage of bot pressure. To get... So I'm mainly thinking about what the junglers want to do, because if this duo is pushing, they have to be careful about a Sejuani gank, because again, there's a lot of setup with this duo. I mean, I already know that Gragas hangs around bot, because that's normally what you do on a Predator jungler, so maybe they're not too concerned about it, but then the Aatrox can't afford to push top. So I'll have a look at what Bwipo does and why he feels that he's safe to push top, because I think that if he doesn't have jungle support, he's at risk of a dive. Meanwhile, mid will just farm. This guy gets pushed under tower. And that's an even more important reason as to why Aatrox can't push top. I'll be interested in seeing how he was able to actually do that. But in terms of win conditions, like, Fnatic have to find picks on side. Like, you have Tahm Kench and you have Twisted Fate. Like, it's really important that you get Aatrox ahead, in my opinion, because he's going to be your biggest source of mid-game damage. I think it takes a little while for Twisted Fate to really turn on, and even then, you need to be able to generate pressure on sides. And the only way you do that is if you're ahead. So it's really important for Twisted Fate to look to roams, and we need to see Tahm Kench like join and try and get Aatrox ahead. Meanwhile, for G2, they scale really well. It's really easy for them to force fights. But the thing is, while their early game is not necessarily the strongest, they have options because of the Pyke. And like Pyke Sejuani is just a really strong duo, especially when they both hit 6. And they'll probably just focus on trying to match to stop these two from getting ahead. So like the whole game plan for Fnatic is get ahead early and then like constantly look to play on side lanes and like force a bunch of picks. Whereas G2, they just kind of want to keep things simple. They don't need to force a lot of stuff, but they have the option of looking and roaming and like trying to force duos and skirmishes because they have the Pyke. So that's kind of what I'm expecting. Does anyone have any questions? I will now read Twitch chat because I haven't read that at all during that whole monologue thing. But if anyone has any questions in relating to the comps, maybe they have criticisms for some of the things that I said, is there anything that people want to say? Any questions? Please tag at Vedius Official in the Twitch chat if you have questions. Would Thresh work better than Tahm Kench? Maybe. I'd have to ask Mickey, because I actually don't know what the Thresh into Pyke matchup goes. I mean, like, so in the context of the comp, the Tahm Kench makes sense. I just think that for lane it doesn't. Why? Okay, again, for lane it also does, because for Karma to be played as an AD carry, you also need a powerful support that can actually trade. And like this is a duo is surprisingly strong. So like just as a duo by itself, it is strong. But the moment they saw the Pyke, they should have pivoted away from trying to keep Karma as an AD carry, and they should have looked for other options, which they don't do. Because again, I'm going to use my Caitlyn Karma example. If it's Caitlyn Karma and Pyke tries to roam, well, now Xayah gets completely zoned away from the tower, and plates start to fall, right? Or they can stay, and then they're forced to try and all in, but then you also have a clear idea of what G2 is trying to do, and because you have things like maybe a Twisted Fate, you can then utilize your ultimate to play around bot and make it harder. So you have like a whole comp that revolves around a Karma Caitlyn as an example that can just mitigate what the Pyke is looking to do. But they don't. They come in with the game plan of Karma is played AD carry. We don't care if they know we're going to do it. And then in order to make the Karma work, we're going to go for Tahm Kench. And Tahm Kench synergizes well with Twisted Fate. So all we have to do is get an early lead, which means all the pressure falls onto Broxah. And if he doesn't get an early lead, then the game's kind of kaput, because this comp is objectively just much better than this one. Only because they have more options in how they win the game. Fnatic has like one, which is get ahead early and then play towards side lanes. And if you don't do that, then you're never going to win team fights. And if you ever fall behind, G2 get to force as much as they want. And this guy's going to run TP, this guy's going to run TP, this guy's going to run TP. So even if you try to split push, it doesn't matter. One of these three will match you on a side lane if you're even with them, and then the other four will just run down mid, and they'll be like fighters, 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 fighters. And then you'll be forced to fight them. So it's really important that this comp gets ahead. So to go back to your question, would Thresh necessarily be better? I don't think so. I think they should have just pivoted this Karma away from tunneling and putting it on AD carry. That's what I think. Do you think Lucian ban was necessary? No. I talked a little bit about that earlier. I think Sejuani may have been a better one. Fnatic won't be super good until the meta gets back to crit AD carries. Reckless champion. The crit AD carries exist. Sivir is still fine. Xayah is still fine. He can also play Lucian himself. He's a really good Lucian player. Ezreal's also really good. He doesn't like Ezreal, but Ezreal's also good. There's nothing wrong with the meta. In terms of champions, anyway. Do you think this draft spells trouble for Fnatic going into playoffs, seeing as they seem super reluctant to leave that on-stage champion pools? So, like, this is the frustrating thing about Fnatic, is that they're so good at their own style that even if people know, sometimes it's not enough to beat it. Which is, like, giga frustrating. The only team that can punish them is G2, and from a Worlds perspective, this is bad. However, their players are really good, which means that they get away with a lot of things. Because teams aren't as good as punishing them like G2 is. I think any support would be better than Tahm Kench here. I think he's really weak, especially after this. I mean, he definitely is weaker. But as I said earlier, I still think the duo makes it fine. Why are teams prioritizing TF? No team is prioritizing TF. Fnatic is prioritizing TF. And I don't agree with it. If not Tahm Kench, what other pick would you rather Hilly play if he gets target ban like this? What target bans? There were 2 support bans. Rakan and Yuumi. If your champion pool is gone after 2, then you have bigger issues. As I mentioned earlier, you move the Karma into support. That would be my pitch. So what would Fnatic's win conditions? As we already talked about that. Can you find out why Reckless, who is one of the best AD carries of all time, decided to play Karma bot over Trist, who is a great flex pick? Trist, yeah. Trist is cool. I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like Lemus literally can play 2 champs to split in TF and Corki, and I think it's hindering them super hard. Maybe. Maybe. He's played Aatrox, I think, as well. What about Gragas? Is there a better jungler for this comp? I mean, I think there are better junglers, but they're forced to pick AP because they decided to go Karma bot and Twisted Fate AD mid. God, it's like they just, Fnatic just hurt themselves so much. Anyway, we'll stop talking about the draft. Let's actually watch the game because we spent like 25 minutes on the draft now. TLDR, I'm not a fan of Fnatic's draft. I think it limits them in terms of what options they have. And I think that it was so predictable that G2 got the perfect draft. I would not be surprised if G2 had a bit of paper and of one of the combinations of Fnatic drafts that could go, this was one of them. I would not be surprised at all if G2 was just like, yeah, we expected literally every pick. Because... Anyway, let's actually watch the game. Alright, so, before we watch the game, some expectation setting. The thing about Gragas and any Predator jungler, and props to Ender, Ender taught me this, so like Sylas and Gragas are the same, Skarner is similar, but basically you'll do a full side clear towards one side of the map, right? And the reason why you do that is usually you do red side, because you can get level 3 off of Krugs, Raptors, and red buff, okay? And usually you do it if you're like weak early, so that you can get fast level 3, go base, restock on whatever it is, get your second jungle item, as in like the second component of it, and then you can move back out onto the map, and you hope that you haven't lost half your jungle. So what Brox is going to do is he's going to do red into Raptors into Krugs, or like some variation of that, and then he'll look to base in order to get his Predator, or he'll utilize the pressure that his bot lane has gotten to try and steal away some of the enemy bot lane camps, the Sejuani, because you assume Sejuani is going to start on blue. Actually, she may do a full bot side clear into then red, which will also give her level 4. So maybe that's not worth it. Yeah, Broxah probably just wants to base. I don't think Scudder will be up in time, so you can't do that. In any case, Brox is going to be pathing around bot. He's going to be playing around the bot lane that's pushing. This means that Bwipo, in theory, shouldn't be able to push, because Yanko should be pathing up top side, and potentially gank, and Caps will also have push mid. So just bear that in mind. So, when we watch, just keep track of what the early junglers are up to. Let's speed this up a little bit. Right. Broxah takes early sweeper, clears out some of the vision, so you can't see what Broxah's up to. So we can see Sejuani pathing bot, Gragas doing the same. Gragas doesn't need a pull, especially if he's going to do early baits anyway. And so he's starting on Raptors, which is fine. We talked about it, there's like some variation. Sylas will also start on Raptors, for example, and then do Raptors into red. Meanwhile, Yankos is going to do his blue. He'll probably do blue into Gromp, and he could do Wolves into red, which will give him level 3. Or he could go straight up towards top side, and then he can do like, well, there you go. He's going to do Wolves. He might do red. He might do Krugs, but he doesn't need to do another camp. In any case, we can already see the bot lane getting push. Gragas doing his bot side clear. Kled is getting early push, so this is very much like what you'd expect and what we talked about. So Bwipo has to play on the defensive. Nemesis gets pushed in because he doesn't match the wave clear. And then we see an all-in bot at level 2. So, we talked a little bit about this in the draft. How this duo gets early push. However, this all-in, insanely strong. The Xayah with her E has like a lot of damage early on. And then you have plenty of CC setup with the E and the Q. And you still do damage to champions. That bit wasn't nerfed. So this duo will naturally push, but the moment this duo hits level 2, they can look for all-in. Very rarely, though, will they actually try and force it, but hey, that's G2's bot lane for you. So look, the moment they hit level 2, it actually looks like Hylissang gets rooted up as he's trying to push. but Mickey messes up his combo a little bit. So notice here, his target is actually not Hylissang, his target is Reckless. But I'm not sure what skills they have. And I can't check, because it looks like he doesn't have his Q up. Yeah. Oh, now he does. Okay, so the most important thing about this now, though, is because they tried to force that all in, the wave is now slowly pushing that way. So what they want to do is they actually want to unfreeze this. But the problem is that jungler is on top side, and they should know that Broxer is bot. So Mickey, he doesn't actually spot out, and he drops this ward in here. And when I spoke to Mickey afterwards, he told me that his mistake was putting the ward in here when he should have put the ward in here. And then he would have had vision on Gragas, and they would have backed away. But yeah, you can see this wave is pushing, and what they want to do is just push it under tower so that it bounces back. But of course, to do that, they're overextended, and there's the risk of them getting ganked. And he doesn't have his flash. So they die. Man, they're playing so aggro. But it's because the wave's in a really awkward spot, and Reckless like sets up a freeze. Yep. In my opinion, they shouldn't have tried to force that all in because they didn't have jungle attention. So Jankos did this. Yeah, that'll give him level 3. And then he sees jungler bot, so he knows he can steal blue. Good stuff from Jankos, but even still, like, this was bad from the bot lane of G2. I just want to reinforce that. This was dumb. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the whole setup, so I don't get to comment on why they even go for that all-in the first place. But I can only assume that it's because they believe they can get a kill at level 2. And then something goes wrong for whatever reason. So now Jankos goes top. He's obviously going to get spotted out by a ward. Oh, see, I said it was pushing. It doesn't actually. The reason why it's pushing that way is because the wave bounces back. And it looks like Wonder loses a bunch of trades. But now he's at risk of a dive. So now look at what Brox is doing. After finding a first kill, he doesn't go to his topside camps at all. He immediately comes top. So Bwipo is just saying, we can dive, we can dive, we can dive. I have a wave stacking underneath his tower. Jankos is around, but it doesn't matter. We can kill him. He has no flash. This guy is dead. Just come. So he does. He has boots. He's going to walk into the lane, and they're setting up for the dive. Here we go. Ooh, but they get cold feet because they see Jankos there. But they should know that Jankos was there, because they saw him on a ward over here. So now, Brox is wasting time. Because Jankos was still clearing out his Krugs while all that was going on. And remember, so all Brox has done is the bot side of his map. Of his jungle, right? He's made one successful early gank happen, which is great for him. But because he hasn't cleared these out, they still give reduced experience. So he's going to go kill them, and he's going to be really far behind in experience to Jankos. He's already far behind in gold and XP and everything. So he needed to make this kill happen for it to be worth it. It didn't happen, and so this is when I then I question some of the decision making from. I assume it's Bwipo that's calling this. And this is just objectively a mistake. Because if they were going to let the presence of Jankos deter them from making this play, then they should never have called it. Because they knew Jankos was there. See? Look! Look! Ping! Jankos is top! He's full health. And he's top lane. And so he decides, hey, Wonder could get dived here, so I'm just going to clear these. And then I can come help him push out the wave. And look, they're like, oh, we're coming. And then Jankos is like, are you? And they're like, no, we're not. Never mind. And then Jankos is here to help push out the wave. Meanwhile, more killing bot lane. Yeah, so. Oh, Brox is wasting so much time. This is super bad for Broxer. So, Brox is now massively behind. Like, even though it doesn't show in the gold, this is bad. Like, really bad. Because now Jankos gets to go bot with all of his camps respawning. Oh, and he still commits to the kill. He's like, I'm doing this. Damn. Yeah, so Brox is like... Brox is not happy now. Brox is really sad. On the bright side, one might say, on the bright side, Bwipo still has his teleport. He's ahead in farm, and he's keeping Wonder down. So one of the win conditions that we talked about was they need to get Bwipo ahead early. Pardon me, because he'll carry them in the mid game. I don't think what Broxer does is bad. Whoa, I never said what he did was bad. I said this is bad. As in the situation that he's now in. Because he's down 2 levels. And again, right? Like, I'm not necessarily putting the blame on Broxer here. So just for context on the YouTube video, someone in chat said, I don't think what Broxer did is bad. And I agree. I do not think that what Broxer did is necessarily a bad thing. Because Bwipo reads the situation and says, we can dive Wonder. And that is correct. They have a wave stacking, and they have the damage to get the kill. That I agree with. However, what Broxer loses in order to make this play happen is a lot of jungle farm and experience. And the reason why that's bad is because he hasn't cleared out any of his topside camps. And the first clear gives you reduced experience. So these camps need to die. They need to. And they haven't yet. We're nearly 6 minutes into the game and they still haven't died. His Raptors have respawned and they're about to get stolen by Jankos, and he has support from caps. So if Broxer now walks in, he doesn't get those camps. Because it's 2 versus 1 and Nemesis can't come over because there's a wave here. So this play that he made top can work. And if they get the kill, then it's fine for Broxer. Because the experience that he gains and the gold that they generate from getting that kill is ultimately worth it. Right? But it didn't happen. They didn't get the kill. And the thing that surprises me is that they got deterred after they saw Jankos there. And they knew that Jankos was there. So the only logic that I have is that Bwipo is telling Broxer, we can dive top. Jankos, I've spotted him. He is topside, but even if he is top, we can still make this kill happen. And then the moment they see Jankos, they don't dive. So they disengage. So that's where I'm a bit confused, and I'm like, well, if they knew that Jankos was topside, and the potential for him to counter this was there, and they still decided to commit to the play, then it suggests that they either just expected Jankos to back, or they weren't fully committed to the play. So they end up getting nothing off the back of it, and it puts Broxer very far behind. So that's the thing that I really want to draw attention to and focus in on. The play itself is not necessarily bad, and it also ties in with the win conditions that we talked about, which is Bwipo, we need to see him get ahead early. So if they find that kill, this is great, because Wonder doesn't have teleport either. He had to use it early. I'm not sure why. I missed why. And Bwipo has TP advantage. So if that kill happens, beautiful, beautiful. Fnatic's in a great spot, but he doesn't. So now he starts to lose these. And even though he's in a position to challenge, if he gets a smite still, he should be okay. But he doesn't. He lost those camps as well. Jankos gets the smite. So, wait, where the hell did he get level 4 from then? Oh, I suppose he was leeching top XP. But look, you can see Jankos gets it. He still gets level 4 though from killing the little ones. But Wonder doesn't want to back now. Ooh, and then they go for a play onto Nemesis. Okay. So they now think that they can go onto this play. They're pinging Nemesis. They're like, we can do this. They don't actually... No, they do know Hillsang's there. And they think that they can just burst him. But they miss the stun. If the stun lands, maybe they kill him. And Caps maybe should have flashed earlier, but I guess he assumes that he's not getting out. But like, this is now bad for G2. Because Broxer actually gets kills and XP when he's really far behind. And this is valuable for him. And more gold in his back pocket. Yeah, I think G2 flub up on the execution. I don't think the decision is necessarily the wrong one. I think they have more damage than this 3. But where was the hook as well? Where was the hook for Mickey? Oh, he hooks a minion too. Alright, then I put this one down more to execution. Because if they kill Nemesis here, then Broxah can't commit to this fight either. I don't think. I don't think so. But even then, even if he lands the hook, do they necessarily get the kill? Don't know. Don't know. Because they took a tower shot as well. It's tough to say. But either way, G2 fumbled that execution. I don't think the decision was necessarily wrong. So this is now great for Broxah. Because he's like, ooh, now I get to steal away your jungle camps. And you have cleared out your raptors. So that XP that I should have been missing, I don't miss anymore. Yay me. So because of that blunder from G2, all that early work that Jankos did kind of gets ruined. And now Broxah finally gets to clear his top side. Yay, Broxah. So now Fnatic aren't screwed anymore. Which is good for them. Yep. So you can see he's behind in lane. Him burning his TP early and being punished is really bad. Bwipo has TP advantage. So one thing that Fnatic could actually now look for is a potential dive bot, because Mickey's still only level 5. The problem is they can't get priority over mid, because it's 80 Twisted Fate. If they could get prior mid, and then set up roam bot with TP advantage, they could like snowball this early lead pretty massively. But I don't think they do. We talk a little bit about jungle difference and how Broxah smashed him last time. So again, notice how Jankos 6, Broxah 5, he's still behind overall in terms of XP because he cleared those out, and while he is 5, like, he's very far behind. He's very, very far behind. Because, like, if these two junglers meet now, yikes. Yikes. So we can see Wonder starting to win a lot more trades. And now G2's threatening a dive up top because they're able to get push in mid, which means they get to control top river. Jankos is also 6. Broxah has now hit 6 because he gets to clear his red, but his blue's going to disappear. Not much he can do about that. This is where the bounce back XP thing comes in really handy. So like because he gets to clear out all these camps, he's been able to catch up a little bit on XP. So now Fnatic do what they often do. Hylissang roams. They leave the Karma in the 1 versus 1. So like notice how Hylissang actually has a level advantage because he was able to get this kill here. And remember what we talked about earlier is that this duo actually doesn't match the roaming power. And part of it is because once Mickey hits 6, and like overall his early skirmishing should just be stronger than a Tahm Kench's. However, because he's a level down, Mickey meeting Hylissang here is bad. And so the fact that Hylissang is able to move first is good because it mitigates one of the biggest strengths of Mickey, which is his roaming power. So I like this from Hylissang. I'm not quite sure where he moved from, but no. Oh, okay. So there you go. You can see he helped bot push out, and then he looked to roam. Meanwhile, Mickey was already mid. So it was a precautionary roam. I like this from Hylissang. I think it's smart. So Broxah's just hanging around mid, helping them clear. I think Nemesis wants to base. His TP is just about to come up. Lots of TPs. So now the bigger... Alright. I was looking at the map, and now I'm seeing Hylissang die. And okay. Alright. Let's figure out what happened. So Nemesis wants to base, right? So the important thing is to look at the minimap here. I wish I could blow it up. Alright. Wait, we can do that thing. Oh, I forget what the button is. Someone tell me what the button is where you can like do the thing. Alright, because this is a great educational opportunity. Okay. Can I?
Press Control, Windows key, and then the side.
Well, I've done it now.
Okay.
Okay. So let's have a look at the minimap state. So I need this one. So mid laner, he's off going to base, right? The other mid lane is here. Top laner is recalling. So he's in a position to TP. Enemy top laner is here. Support is here. Jungler is here. Support is here. This guy is over here. This guy's here. And then I'm missing a piece. Jungle here. Yeah. So. Maybe I should just control zoom out a little bit. Okay, it's not letting me do that. Okay. We're going to be a little awkward. So, the thing that they want to fight for is this bad boy right here, right? They want Drake. Okay? So, notice how Perks has pushed this bot lane out. So the minions are going this way, forcing Reckless to catch them here. Notice that the mid laner is going back. Also notice that the top laner is sitting underneath his tower. So because this top laner from G2 is base, he has the ability to teleport first. That's thing number one. Notice also how G2 have 3 people in the mid lane. This means that they also get priority in terms of moving here and in here. Notice how Hylissang right now is sitting in the river with his jungler right behind him. There is no way... It's not possible for Fnatic to contest Drake in this situation. You must concede Dragon and River control. You have to. Because the AD carry gets to move first. These 3 get to move first. Which means that 4 versus 1 or 2, you lose. And even if this guy TP's in, right? This guy also gets to TP in. And he gets to TP in first. So, under no circumstances can Fnatic ever... Do you want to reset? Okay, yes. Under no circumstances ever can these 2 be trying to secure river control. They just can't. It's not possible. So what Hylissang, he starts the Scuttle Crab, and even then, he can disengage. But he walks back into the brush. Why? Why, though? He doesn't have any wards in his inventory. His sweeper is on cooldown. There's actually 0 reason for him to... So, like, to start with, right? It's funny because I was praising him for being here, right? I thought this play... And then he moves down towards Scuttle, right? Ooh, actually, maybe he was setting it for a flank onto the AD carry. But then he realized, okay, whoops. But then he starts the Scuttle Crab, and Brox is there to support him. And he's like, come on. And then he... I don't know. And what's Broxer doing? What's Broxer doing? I've been sitting here flaming Hylissang. Leave! Your support is dead. What are you going to do in this situation? Oh... Alright, and at this point, Bwippa shouldn't have teleported in. So... Oh, okay. Here's the one bright side, right? No. Never mind, there's no bright side. So Bwippa TP's mid lane, even after his support is definitely dead. Oh man, that was terrible. That was genuinely terrible. I'm sad to see that. Whoa. Anyway, let's continue. Let's relive this. Oh man, this is super bad for Fnatic. Insanely super bad. So we saw a bit of a trade bot where Mickey got chunked out, forced them back. Brox, wait. What's Broxer doing? I didn't even get to see his pathing. So Broxah paths up towards top side. To set up for a gank on mid? Okay, so the reason why I'm confused by this is because... So, I will hold my hands up and say I'm not a jungle expert. And I kind of wish Ender was here, because he could probably clarify for me. So in this situation, notice that his Krugs are up. And so in my head, Dragon is the next point of contention, right? That's the next objective that both teams would look to play around. Bwipo doesn't have teleport. Nemesis does, Reckless does. So you've got a few options here. Option number one is you path towards bot, you take Krugs, and you try and get some vision control around bot river, which you can do because your duo actually had priority in this situation. So if he had pathed bot, he could leverage the push that they... Look, you can see Hylissang in the river, and he's actually pretty safe. They could actually get some vision here. Alternatively, your duo can swap to top, and then you can look to trade Drake for Herald, and maybe some top plates. And the fact that the duo went bot lane, I feel Broxah should have just gone bot. Do you agree, Ender? Oh, Ender is here. Perfect. So do you agree with me, Ender? Do you think that's correct? Do you think if you're a jungler in this situation and you see none of your camps are up except for Krugs, you would path bot and then you would look to try and set up some vision around Drake? Even if you can't necessarily fight it, you would look to try and get some vision around it. Would you do that? Would you path towards Krugs? Or do you think him pathing top and then looking for a gank mid is the more optimal play? Do you think he should be playing around the Aatrox? You think that's reasonable? Okay. Because, like, again, like, the other play is if you know you can't fight for Drake, then you try to swap, and you try to look for a play top. And so you reset, and then you swap, and then your jungler paths top in order to get vision control around here with the pressure that you have from your duo, and then you can look to secure that objective then. I think the path to mid might be setting up more for Drake, though, since Azir just TP'd back. Gank mid to give TF prio. Oh, okay. That's fair. Okay. I can see that. Okay. That's fair. Alright, so I guess he has options, if we're looking at it. Like, that could be one of his decision makings. If he gets a successful flash off away from caps, then he's now forced to play more defensively, and this would allow Twisted Fate to push up, and then they could actually move into River. Yep. That's cool. Okay, thanks, Ender. So Karma TP's back to bot. Wait. I was looking at the minimap. So what happens? So Mickey's roaming as he's always roaming, right? So he's looking for picks. Nemesis does have flash. Well, that was a pretty good disengage, though, admittedly. So G2's actually roamed and looked for a lot of picks. And now Broxah gets bullied out of his jungle. And then Perks just abandons the wave bot to trade it for mid. And he's losing more camps. And they're getting a lot of plates. So right now they're just trading plates. Meanwhile, wow, Bwipo's actually beating Wonder top lane. Wait, is that because Wonder wasn't paying attention? What did Wonder do? I'm just looking at the minimap right now. I'm not quite sure. I guess because Wonder doesn't have ult. I guess this matchup is way more complicated than it looks. Okay. So the play mid is fine. So let's backtrack here. So Broxah tries to make this gank mid happen. It doesn't pull off. So he's now like moving back towards his bottom half of the jungle. They see the TP coming. Well, they don't see the TP from Reckless. But they look for a pick in mid, which is also fine. And that was a good barrel from Broxah. Because if he lands this stun, then Mickey dies. So quick, he's forced to flash out. So it ends up actually being an advantage to Fnatic, except they lose full prio in mid. So they're forced to disengage. So Broxah loses more camps. Perks abandons bot because he's 2 versus 1. Smart decision from him, because he's not going to be able to do much bot lane. And then he starts pathing that way because he knows that he'll be able to catch the wave in a second. So what Hylissang does is he roams up the river to try and zone away the AD carry from farm. And then I think that he forgets that G2 have prio mid. Oh. This was terrible from Hylissang. So, like, you can understand his logic, which is, if I zone perks away, then I can, then I deny him more farm. And it all just gets eaten up by the tower. But mid has priority. Mickey gets to move first. Who from your team is going to help you in this situation? Nemesis is based. Broxer is based. Your top lane doesn't have teleport. You're just running into them. And so Mickey gets to roam down and is like, yup. And Yankos also gets to roam down and is like, yup. And then Mickey gets rich. And, like, to be fair, right? I criticized this Tom Kench pick pretty heavily initially. However, he's, because of some failings from the 2v2 G2's early laning, they fell behind. They were summonerless. And this gave Hylissang an advantage that allowed him to actually match a lot of the roams from Mickey. So even though Mickey made 2 roam plays to mid, both of them failed. And so Hylissang was in a great position this game, but then he immediately just removes all that advantage by dying. And in a way in which he didn't have to die. They should have just backed off. Taken the plates. They got 2 bot. It would have been a trade for 2 in mid. So now Broxer and Nemesis are back on the map. Well, I don't actually know if Nemesis has gone base yet. I don't think he has. Interesting that G2 choose not to play for Drake. Because in this situation, they definitely could have. They're still strong enough, in my opinion, to force this. Hylissang TPs to top so that they can try and get more plates. And also he has Spellbook, so it's fine. And then he rotates round. Oh! Now this is smart. Because they know they have the push in top. And they know that... they figure that G2's either on Drake or they're resetting. And because Nemesis either never based or didn't base earlier... He has the ability to move first, so they get to go to Herald, and then Reckless is already pathing up top. This is good. This is a good play from Fnatic. I like this. I like this a lot. Yeah, great utilization of the teleport there, because now they can send him bot to catch the wave. Interesting that they kept Wonder top. And they've actually sent the duo mid while they've sent Caps bot. And I think the reason why they've done that is because they've recognized the Herald is gone. So we can see the swap happen. So you can see he is pathing bot. Or top rather, but then the moment they recognize that Herald is being started, he starts pathing towards mid. Well, actually, I think they must have made this decision earlier, because notice that Caps immediately goes straight to bot after blue. So if he's going bot and they want to play around Drake, they're like, yeah, you should catch mid. I'm surprised that they would send Hylissang back to top lane, though. Not sure what he's going to do top. Oh, okay. So now G2 just look to trade. Okay, that's why they kept him top. To push with the Herald. Yep. So they get that objective. G2 trade bot. They get the Drake. And then they rotate down to mid. And now they're looking to fight. Because they know that Caps is bot with that teleport. Whipper's already on the way. Hylissang's on the way as well. They want to try and force a pick. Instantly kill Mickey. Good punish. Yep, that's a really good pick. I like that a lot. I need to take this off. He's bullying Yankos. So this is a good rotation from Fnatic. They know they're ahead of the play. They know they have more time to make the collapse. And they can see that the duo is overextended mid. We've seen quite a few mistakes from Perks and Mickey this game. I think more so Mickey than Perks. If I'm to throw criticism at anyone. I think Mickey's made quite a few mistakes this game. They only end up getting a kill though. They don't convert much off of it. So now all of Fnatic is resetting. So they immediately move back to mid lane. Excuse me. And then they trade it for a tower. But again, Fnatic trade this pick back. So notice, again, so we'll go all the way back to the kill, which happens here. So because they don't have a wave, they don't actually convert it into anything like the tower. And they need to catch side. So Bwipo needs to go back top because he knows that wave is pushing in. And Twisted Fate needs to go bot and push that wave out. And Azir is already back on the map. So even after finding that kill, it doesn't actually cost G2 anything. But because Fnatic need to reset, because of how the rest of the map was set up, they end up losing mid tower. And then they go for a pick onto Hylissang because he's there by himself. Yes, this is a mistake, but it also results in no flash Jankos getting caught by himself. And now that Bwipo knows that Jankos is dead, he's able to go push top. G2 go bot. Damn. Nemesis has been attacked every time his flash is up. That time Mickey played that well, but he has to disengage here. See, like, props to Fnatic on how they utilize their pressure on sides to then rotate and group mids. Because this is just an oversight from Perks and Mickey, which they've done now for the second time in a row, where they're playing towards, they push in a wave where they don't have enough pressure anywhere else on the map, and they get collapsed on and killed. This is another really good pick from Fnatic. Really good. Oh, pardon me. And now because Caps was by himself 1v2, he gets forced back. And then Fnatic should be able to get this tower. And all of a sudden they're like back in the game. Whew. Pretty crazy, to be honest, how this game has swung so much. Like, I give a lot of this props to Bwipo. I think like Bwipo's played this game pretty well. I think he's played the 1v1 really well. I think he's roamed really well. And this is where it all falls to disaster for Fnatic. Just as I was praising Bwipo. Alright. So the thing about this game is you're hearing me talk a lot about this game from the perspective of Fnatic, right? And we're only 15 minutes in, and the reason is because this early game is very Fnatic focused. Like, remember what we said in the draft. Fnatic need to find an early advantage in order to make their comp work. It's really important. Otherwise, they're going to get outscaled. G2 can match them on sides if both sides are even, and then G2 can just force fights elsewhere. They can even attack you on sides because they have things like Pike, right? So the reason why I've been talking so much about Fnatic is largely because a lot of the plays that have been happening have been dictated and set up for by Fnatic. And they've either been good plays or they've been mistakes from Fnatic. And while we have seen a couple of mistakes from G2, ultimately, their early game doesn't matter because they just need to make sure that they're not behind. Which they're not. They were even, and if they're even heading into the mid to late game, then their comp is just stronger. So, like, the reason why I haven't spoken about G2 much is because they don't need to do much. Jankos has been pathing better than Broxer. He's had a huge experience and farm advantage. He's been very effective in way set up ganks, but then even then, we've seen a couple of mistakes from the side of G2 that have resulted in Broxer actually catching up when he shouldn't have been able to. So like in the early game, the bot lane has underperformed from G2. They have been heavily punished. In particular, Mickey, in my opinion. Like, that was the first big mistake we've seen from Perks. But notice now the map state. And this is when I bring this bad boy back up. So, we're going to reset. Yes. We're going to reposition everyone. So, top lane is here. Mid lane is here. I'll reposition a little bit better in a second. AD carry. Mid is there. Support is there as well, I guess. Yeah, support. Jungle. AD carry. Top is here. Jungle is here. AD carry and support are here. Okay, so mid is over here. Mid and jungle are here. So, two things are happening right now. And this is the mistake from Fnatic. Fnatic are trying to make a cross-map play. Cross-map simply refers to when a team is utilizing pressure or a push on one side of the map, you make a play or push on the other side of the map. Now, there's no tower for Fnatic to take, but they see an Azir who's overextended that they think they can collapse on. This play in and of itself is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with this. These guys are pushing in top because there's nothing for them to do, right? Well, it's a free objective. They get to push in this wave, and then they can rotate through and they can help out their mid laner. In which case, Fnatic will either be threatening this tower, or they too will collapse, and then depending on who collapses first will depend on who gets pushed, this way or this way, right? So these plays are absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong with this. The mistake comes from this in particular, this guy trying to dive these. Because while this fails, it forces the mid laner back. So they have push. They've achieved what they wanted. They've been able to push in this wave, and now they can do whatever they want. They can rotate if they want to. They can collapse with the rest of their team. They can threaten this tower, and because they don't have to take a tower, they actually probably get to move first. So they can actually start threatening this, and because it's 2 versus 5, G2 will be forced to retreat. However, these guys take this tower, they've now got to set up for a flank. Which means that the moment these guys overcommit, it's very easy to get a collapse off, and the worst part about it is Caps is forced to base, which means that he has teleport, so he can set up the flank. So let's watch it happen. So notice here, again, this is fine, right? The trade happens. They force Caps back. This play is fine. They now see that Perks is by himself mid lane. But again, notice where the state of the lane is in top. It's been pushed. Sejuani is already moving over. And then he dives the tower. He does not have the push to do this. He just doesn't. Like, Nemesis just used his ult bot and he doesn't have TP. Brox is also down here. Meanwhile, these guys are already moving. You can't make both these plays happen at the same time. So they die. And then, quick thinking here from Caps to TP flank him from behind. Because then by killing Bwipo, the pressure that these two generated from Brot literally doesn't matter. Because there's 3 dead. And now they get to go to... I thought they went to Baron. I thought they did Baron at this point. And now they reset. Well, they should reset anyway. That was really bad. The thing is, like, Fnatic is just better than this. And, like, stuff like this is exactly what they want to be doing. Finding picks on a side lane. It's exactly what their comp excels at. I think this play is fine. This, however, is not. He flashes in. He tries to... Oh. Good hook there from Mickey. Wait, what happened here? Okay. Also, my chat seems to be arguing about something that now I'm interested in. It is good. Statistically and by eye test, you are just wrong. I don't know what they're arguing about. I don't know what they're arguing about. Alright. Just, again, I'm going to keep talking about this. Just look at the minion waves. Mid is pushed in. Bot is pushed in. Like, you don't have access to anything, so you can't just walk up and check. You're not allowed. That's how League of Legends works. Waves matter so much. And Hellsang just kills himself. Super bad. Super bad. They're arguing about Splice? Oh, okay. Well, this isn't a Splice VOD review, so I'm not going to involve myself. Alright, so because now they're 4v5, Fnatic can't walk out onto the map. They actually pushed in all 3 lanes. Yeah, they pushed in top, they pushed in mid, bot had to go catch the wave. They have no vision topside. It's all been cleared out. And so this is just a G2 special thing. They know that with Wonder on Kled, they can 2-man this Baron and already start it. And by the time Fnatic realizes it's too late, the Baron's gone. They can maybe trade it for mid tower, but it doesn't matter. I don't even know if they can trade it for a mid tower. Well, they just barely get it. But now G2 play around 2 lanes because they're ahead. And we already talked about how their comp... oh my word. So let's watch Hellsang here. So ah man, this is terrible. Like, it doesn't really matter how the fight plays. Like, part of the reason is also, like... So this is also where I said where they can never fight them. Because, like, where does the damage come from? So look at how long Cap survives for here. He gets barreled, he gets stunned. He gets knocked up by Whippo. And he's the only one to die. Meanwhile, Perks is still alive. Wonder's still alive. Mickey's still alive. And he's like, I have my ulti. Money, 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 money. Oh man, that was terrible from Hellsang. Smart of G2 not to greed. Just don't know why he's there, bro. I mean, he buys a lot of time, right? But yeah. So now they play through 2 lanes. Very common for G2, but also just how you're supposed to play with Azir. They try to attack Wonder. G2 trade it for pressure on top side. Wonder's buying loads of time. It's 4v5 now though, so G2 have to disengage. Yeah, they kind of have to. Even though I think they would still win. Like, Caps has a death cap second. I think he does a lot of the damage. Alright, that wasn't technically a 4v5 though. That was a Fnatic split up and killed themselves. I don't even know who they were hunting for there. Ace. The game's over. So there we have it. Oh. Fnatic made many mistakes that game. In particular, here they're saying, whew. I would, so, like, it's kind of sad because, like, it was an enjoyable and fun game to watch. However, like, looking back, it's actually now just, like, a lot of mistakes from both sides, really. I think you can praise Bwipo for some of the rotations that he made from top to mid to find some of those picks in mid. I do think Mickey, like, ultimately he got really rich on Pyke, but he also made a lot of mistakes that game. Like hooking a minion when trying to hook Nemesis for the early play. He got caught out a few times. Even his level 2, the setup he messed up on. So, like, some of his execution stuff on Pyke wasn't great. And I just feel like Fnatic overall made a lot of mistakes. But you can see what they did. Like, I think they drafted themselves into a corner. I think they needed to find an advantage in the early game. I think Broxah did what he could to try and get an advantage in the early game. But because he didn't pull it off, he put himself in a really awkward position. And if it wasn't for some of the mistakes that G2 made, he might not have come back into the game. But then he does come back into the game. And then, like, there were two crucial mistakes that came out from the side of Fnatic. And one was Tom Kench play, and the other one was the Bwipo dive. However, the important thing to note here is that G2 never actually had to do anything in this early game. Even after all those blunders, they were still going to scale and out-team fight the opposition. All of the pressure was on Fnatic to actually find an early game advantage, and they didn't. They ultimately failed in that regard. Yeah, because if... like, at no point was G2 ever actually at a goal deficit outside of the very early game. And that was just because they had a kill advantage. Maybe if Fnatic didn't make those mistakes, maybe they could have held on to it. But yeah, overall, it was just a messy game. I know Fnatic can play better than this, but, like, they need to diversify their drafts. They need to give themselves more options. I still think, like, Caps had a great game. I think Jankos played very well. Wonder didn't really get to play League of Legends because he was just kind of sitting under his tower all game. I'm surprised. I thought that the Kled versus Aatrox matchup went better for the Kled. So I'll have to talk to Wonder about how that one works out. But there we go. The TLDR is Fnatic made a lot of mistakes. The bot lane from G2 also made a lot of mistakes, in particular Mickey. And both were regularly punished. But in the end, Fnatic made the biggest one of all, and they weren't able to ever out-team fight the comp from G2. So definitely not the cleanest game from G2. They definitely did a lot of good things, but we've seen more impressive games from them before. If I'm a G2 fan, I wouldn't be too worried at all, if anything. I just think Mickey could have played better, honestly. If I am a Fnatic fan, I am worried because I think that their limited champ pool and drafts are a problem. So there you go. Right, that does it for this VOD review. I'm going to stop the recording now. You can check out my other VOD reviews if you would like to. I do more every week on Monday on twitch.tv/Vedius VOD. Thank you very much for watching, and later.